hello world. My name is Max Stein, and I love video games.
I'm the Megabuck. I really love video games.
My name is Raph. I also love video games.
I'm so excited to say hello and welcome to the Game Treasure Podcast, where we discuss treasured video games of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Today we are talking about UFO 50.
It's
and
retro,
can you tell
but it's
Max
not, but it
excited?
is. Yeah, I know, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
my goodness. I have been walking around our house not talking for the past 5 days because all I want to talk about is this game, but I haven't wanted to talk about it because all of the thoughts that I've been having have been so interesting that I was like, I have to save this. I can't ruin this now. I have to talk to Raph about this, but I can't talk about it with him now. Oh my God, this game is so fucking good, you guys. I cannot even begin to, I cannot overstate enough how much I love and am loving, because I will be playing it after this, UFO 50. We were supposed to have a little mini segment on Metaphor Refantasio. Unfortunately, Mr. Venacore was not able to be here today. So next episode, we'll try to get his take on an extra long what else you got, perhaps. But before we get into UFO 50, let's go ahead. We've got some video game news. This week, we have two pieces. One little tiny one. Metal Slug Tactics got its release date with a new trailer. Thank goodness. I've been eyeing this bad boy. I've mentioned it a couple times over the past couple episodes.
This is news to us. We love SNK and Metal Slug.
I love Metal Slug, and this one looks so good, this tactics game. So it's coming out November 5th everywhere.
Nice. Cool.
Fingers crossed. Like,
this has been
that nothing ridiculous happens.
Just in the back of my mind, like in the ether. Every time that it comes up, I'm like, oh shit, that's right, this is coming out. And then now, all right, finally.
I think, oh yeah, this is coming out. And then I think I would love to play that. A tactics game starring all of the IP from Metal Slug, all the cute tanks and the...
Okay.
Yeah. What's the blonde hair? Marco.
Tarma.
Yeah. But then the sort of, I guess you could say, bigger news is that Netflix closed down its AAA video game studio.
Tell me which titles they made. Which titles did this studio make, Mac?
I put it in air quotes because Buck's right. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I will say this. They had over 100 games that you can play on Netflix. Did you know that?
I had one on my phone.
Yes. Over 100 games.
Yeah, Into the Breach. The Breach was on there.
I think that the AAA comes from the fact that they had a stacked payroll. they had people on their payroll included the former executive vice president of Epic Games, former Overwatch executive producer, former creative director of Halo, and the former art director of the new God of War. All of those guys worked for Netflix.
So my first comment was a joke because the AAA division of Netflix's game division put out 0 games.
That's funny.
They never made a game.
That's amazing. The story I read, the people that broke the whole thing, apparently Netflix said they had over 80 games in development using this team because they had planned to release a new game every month.
Sure.
Is that the equivalent of she lives in Canada? Like my girlfriend lives in Canada, basically?
Yeah.
Is that the equivalent of that? Like
my uncle works for Nintendo.
We were making.
The Netflix refused to comment on why they had to dissolve the studio.
Because they weren't doing anything.
No, we had a stomach ache and we couldn't do it anymore. So we closed it down and we
had a bank account ache.
So those guys will get jobs somewhere else, I guess.
No.
But that's it, really. I had no other comments because I hadn't played a game on Netflix either. I didn't think it was going to catch on anyhow. I'd seen it in there and I said, no, thanks.
Yeah,
I'm good on that. Xbox has already got your thing. They're already Netflix for video games. All right, gentlemen, enough of the video game news. I tire of this future we live in. Buck, will you take us into the past with this week's Retro Zone, sponsored by RetroGameTreasure.com, please?
Let's go back in time. Retro Zone. Sometimes I love to bring games that I think that you guys have never played, and you very often surprise me with, oh my God, I love that game. Fusion Frenzy was a great example of that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you guys never played that? And Mac's like, oh my God, if the Xbox could track hours.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I love Fuse
Um,
Ion Frenzy.
Today I'm bringing it's not surprisingly I thought this was Blizzard, but it's not. It's actually Interplay. They were kind of commingled during that time period, weren't they? This is a sequel to a very popular PC and Super Nintendo and Genesis game, and I'm talking about the sequel to Lost Vikings, Norse by Norse West. The
This is
Return of the Lost
not
Vikings.
What?
made by Blizzard, eh?
Well, it's made by Interplay, which
Interesting.
I guess they weren't in the same house at the time.
One
Yeah.
more time with the name, please.
Okay, so
Norse?
Norse. Instead of
Norse?
North by Northwest, it's
Norse by
Norse by Norse West because they're Vikings.
I don't know if I hate that or if I love it. I
We'll
don't.
call 'em A,
Can
we'll call 'em B,
can we
Mac.
take a
I
poll
feel-
across the hate,
Yeah.
love?
We want to hear
Norse
below.
by
Do
Norse
you
by-
do you hate the title Norse by Northwest? Because
I hope it's
not a very good
half
title.
Alfred Hitchcock, half Lost Vikings.
So if you guys don't know what Lost Viking was, I don't even know if they ever made a third one. Actually, it was a puzzle game originally made by Blizzard, and the sequel as well here too. That was on the PlayStation and I think PC as well. You play in the original. You play as 3 Vikings. In this sequel, there's actually 5. They added 2 more. And the way that it works is they all have different abilities, different things that they can do. And they added a couple in this one, like a fire-breathing dragon character and a werewolf as well character. Kind of like Lemmings, they have different abilities that help you either go over environments, stop enemies, go over chasms, those different kinds of things. And it's a puzzle game. And so you're having to swap between the different Vikings to help you progress the different parts of the level. And sometimes it even gets down to here's these 3 switches, and you have to get the 3 of them in all these 3 different places, and each of them to hit their switches. You know, this one that can't climb couldn't get over to here where this one can that you have to climb to, kind of thing. And this was the sequel. Not as well received, but still really cool.
Raph, are you seeing any footage of this? Did you Google this by any chance? Because it looks cool as hell. This
No,
looks
I
like a
hadn't.
good
I've
puzzle
actually
game,
never even
honestly.
heard of this game before.
Yeah, Lost Vikings were really cool.
This looks more fun. This is not how the Lost Viking games normally play, right? Is it?
Yeah.
Do you take
Yeah.
you control them separately?
You do, yes. You control them separately and you move them
Oh,
around.
I didn't realize
different-
it was like a level-based thing either.
Yeah, it was
just
funny
more-
because if anybody ever played Heroes of the Storm, which was Blizzard's unfortunately short-lived MOBA, the Lost Vikings were a character you could play as.
Oh, no way.
And in the game, you could separate them, and they were great for watching lanes because you could put one here, one here, one here. And so the very basic ones are very different. Like I think Olaf was the big one; he's like the big tanky one, and there's another one of them that's really like short and nimble, and so they have different little abilities that they did in that too.
This looks great.
Yeah, they're really fun.
Yeah,
They're really
I've
fun
never heard
puzzle
of
games.
these.
Probably one of the biggest, most redeeming qualities on this one was it was fully voice acted. So they
'Cause
really
it's
took it.
PlayStation.
Yes, and
Yes.
PC. So
Took
they very
advantage
much
of
so
that,
took
yeah.
advantage of that, and the voice acting's not that bad actually either. It's got 31 levels, 5 words, and it's 2-player. I've never played the 2-player of this. I imagine you probably split who you can control and take turns, maybe.
Right. I've never actually played any of the Lost Vikings. I must confess.
Me neither. Yeah,
They look
I've never even heard
great
of this
actually.
game.
As I'm looking at footage now, I'm like we should get one of these. and play
I
it.
can vouch more for the original than this one,
Yeah.
but the originals actually we carry them as well too, but the original turns up more often than this one does. This one's a little more rare, but still something that we definitely carry.
Nice.
This
For
looks great.
preferences,
It's like-
this has got to be puzzles. Yes.
Yeah.
This is more in the well. So we have a puzzle category, and we also have a strategy category. And so sometimes they kind of split that gap. Whereas like puzzle is usually something very straightforward puzzle, like Tetris, Penal Dopan, something along those lines. Whereas if it's more of a strategy kind of game, which is where we also might put board game things or casino games, that we carry those as well too if you're into that kind of stuff. So this might almost be kind of in that strategy kind of. They're not a puzzle, they're not an RPG. They kind of don't check either of the boxes. They're probably in strategy. Mario Party a lot of times will end up in that category too.
I see.
Yeah. Well, nice. I love when you bring games that are like this, where they're not, Final Fantasy VI, but
Right,
video
yeah.
games are so awesome, and there's so many of them out there that are like 7s out of 10, and you're just like, you know what? I'd love to play a 7 right now. I'd just
7
pop
is
in a
fun as
7
hell.
and just play it
Yeah.
for a bit, and like, you know what I mean? Maybe I'll really like it, and it's actually a 10 for me, and then I'll beat it. And that's why the service, the
Yeah.
retrogametreasure.com is very cool, because you've just, for every console, you forget how many pretty good games there are.
Yeah.
Good
And
enough.
God damn it, when you get a nice variety of game style, obviously I'm thinking about UFO 50 already. I'm thinking ahead. Man, you can just video games can just you
Yeah.
just hit the right spot.
But
That's awesome.
you bring up a really good point though, because like, we always say with our service, like, look, we know we don't replace hunting rare games, expensive games.
Right.
You don't get the Final Fantasy 7 in all the boxes because it's a rare and it's a $50 game, and our service is only like $35-$40 a month.
Right.
Not every game you buy has to be Chrono Trigger, man. You know, it could be-
Exactly.
yeah, it could
the
be
7s
yeah.
out of 10s expand your collection while still getting to play some good games, while still throwing in some bangers like Mario 3 and things like that if you don't already own those.
And the fact that it's physical just is like you got the artifact already there, and now you got this artifact to pair it with, and so it's just like it can just like sit somewhere if you don't want to. You know what I mean? It's not like you have to worry about the license running up or whatever. And like I said, it's great time killer video games are. And
Mhm.
sometimes you can't play the 10 out of 10s over and over and over again, and you go, man, I wish I had a collection that had a good amount of 7s in it.
Yeah.
And then boom, you got North by Northwest, and you're like, oh, this is fucking fun to smoke weed and play for 2 hours. All right, go to retrogametreasure.com and start collecting games the easy way today. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to dig into what might be the game of the year for me,
Hell
honestly.
yeah.
I'll be right back. Okay, we're back, and we are ready to dig into UFO 50. Okay, real quick, I'm going to explain what it is before we begin talking about it. So, developed and published by Mossmouth. It's got an overwhelmingly positive review on Steam. It is 50 games made by 6 different developers over the course of years. It is. I ended up figuring out. Buck, have you ever heard of the game Action 52?
Oh yes.
So this game is basically very similar to this NES cart that is a collection of video games called Action 52.
Disclaimer: if
Yeah.
you've ever played Action 52,
No, then maybe
please
they're not
don't
good.
think that's what this is.
No, well,
Yeah.
presented as games for a lost system called the LX that are produced by a fake video game company called UFO Soft between the years 1982 and 1989. So basically, half of these games are multiplayer. I wanted to comment on that, technically speaking. And when you play these in chronological order, which is the way the games are presented to you, this thing basically feels like one of those digital Eclipse, like Atari 50, like those history
Archive,
games
yeah,
that
like
they're coming out with
archival
now, where they're like walking
documentary
you
almost.
through like an experience of the historical relevance of a thing. And with that, I waste no time
Here we go.
busting out my snub hats. Hello, my name is Max Stein, and I love video games. Video games are art, and I'm here to tell you that UFO 50 is one of the finest video games I've played all year.
He said fart.
It just, he smells like farts.
Oh,
when he shows
me,
up.
oh
It's weird.
my, oh me, oh
It's like
my.
He likes the smell of them.
Man, okay, so I'm taking my my privileges of being the host, and I'm going first.
Hell yeah.
Mossmouth.
Go off. Go off.
Mossmouth has created a simulacrum of an experience.
Good word.
They have not created a video game. They have, and they've not created a collection of video games, because there's other video game companies that'll do that. That'll put together a couple of games and sell it to you as one game, and they'll say there's 4 games in here. There's 5 games in here.
Lies.
There's not ever 50 games in there. I mean, really think about what the experience they are making is. Imagine buying 50 new retro games, how much that would cost. Buying a new retro system that you've never played before, and then buying 50 games for that system, how much money that would actually cost you in real life. And then they have sold you the experience for like $32. Yeah, like the game does something that Dan Mullen's games do. Dan Mullen's the creator of Inscription and Pony Island, one of my favorite video game auteurs, which is that it presents itself under false pretenses. which this game's not scary by any means. Don't get me wrong. But there's something about when a video game is like lying to you about what it is that makes it feel it's a sense of something that I first got playing Inscription, and since then I've played several games now where I'm just going, wow, I love when games get meta. When they're sort of
Yes.
just like, no, this is a bunch of games that these guys found in a warehouse. Because when you start the game, you are greeted with this. I actually have it pulled up on YouTube. I'm going to play one
That
of the most
intro,
kick-ass
yeah.
title sequences I've ever seen in a video game that I just, as soon as I booted it up, I went,
Yeah.
oh, wow, this is incredible.
And the pixel
Here
art.
we go.
This right here is wild.
Do you hear this jungle beat jazz? Like, you've got, if you're just listening, you're presented with these pictures that are like these low poly presentations of like people opening up a storage shed and they're looking in a box, and then they find this video game console that like they've never seen before, and then it's guised as the credits say that, oh, these are the people that recovered the video game. These are the
recovery
people
team,
who worked on the recovery of this system, the LX. So right out the gate, the insincerity is like something you probably are aware is insincere, and so you're immediately engaged with, this is art. This is a piece of fiction. Like this is a video game. Immediately, I'm aware that this is a video game because it's already lying to me.
It's telling me in December of 2019 they recovered this console. See the bottom left? It's got a fake date.
Yes.
It's like a found footage movie. It's like
Exactly.
when you watch a found. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So on top of this all, every game has a little blurb, a little developer note
Oh, one of my
to
favorite things
further
about this, yeah.
emphasize this fake
Yeah.
backstory that's going on. It's like Inscription, like the cutaways to the guy who's like reviewing the games to keep this like little underlying current going on where you're going, oh, there's like, oh, the lore of when the games came out and certain games. It's like Dark Souls. You have to read the descriptions to read the lore of fucking
the very
UFO 50.
first game, Barbuda has like the coolest little piece of lore. It's like developed by so and so in secret on their break or whatever. Like it was like
Yes.
by one developer, and he just did it in his free time. It's so cool. You know?
And as far as being a bunch of developers under the single umbrella of this fake company, they have done an incredible job making that feel real.
That's
Not only
oh my god, yeah,
because
That's-
like
yeah.
just like the assets are obviously going to be similar because there's a bunch of team of guys working together, but that's what video game companies are anyhow.
Mhm.
But Buck has not played all the games, but I'll say this, when
so
when you
hard.
have played all the games in chronological order,
It feels-
they nailed it. It feels like an evolution of video games from a specific company.
Right.
It doesn't feel, and the fact that the company is fake makes it even more like you're like, wait, what even is ideas? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And then the last point I wanted to make about this is that this, as a person, I don't know if you're a Game Treasure podcast listener, you may have recalled me or Buck pointing out that it was a point of pride for Buck as a child to be the first person on his block to collect 50 Nintendo games.
It's
Hell
12.
yeah.
50 Nintendo games. Do you know what I knew about Nintendo when I was playing those games? Nothing. They might as well have been UFO soft. What I'm getting at is this game is a Mac childhood simulator. This game is exactly how I was exposed to video games as a child. It is a exact copy of that experience. Like, I have listened to several podcasts now talk about this game, and I was intrigued to find that some of the podcasters' comments were, I feel like some of the games like might get good later, and so I feel bad bouncing off of them if I don't like them, and so I force myself to play them because I feel like, oh, I'm gonna miss out on this thing. Or like there's ones that I just don't like, and then I'm like, oh, I don't want to play this, and I feel guilty that I don't like it, and I could not disagree more. I
It's part
literally,
of the
when I was a
experience.
kid,
It's part of the
Buck had
experience.
2 plastic crates full of Nintendo games, and I would just like boop, play for 30 seconds and go, nope, choop, boom, nope. And they were just as ridiculous as these games are. We're about to get into some of the games and we're going to go, oh, those descriptions sound
So
crazy. Let me describe one of my favorite games for the Nintendo. In Paperboy, you play the Paperboy and you have to avoid getting hit by cars and crocodiles and neighbors. And I'm sorry, Paperboy sounds like a game that would be in UFO 50.
Sounds like Onion Delivery.
Definitely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This game is a cool indie magazine where like you've got all these cool articles written by different people and they're all cohesively themed, but they all have these different things. This game reminded me of Animal Well and Tunic in that it has 50 aha moments a second.
Yeah.
Because every time you start up a new game, you have to figure out how it works.
They
and
don't
then
give
when
you
you
the
do
rules and instructions, which I love.
They'll give you an instruction in the little but it'll be like press X to shoot upwards and press A to charge, and you're like, I have no fucking clue what that means. And then you jump in the game and you still don't know.
You
turns out you're like making
inputs.
You think you're going to be shooting in a spaceship, and you're actually like making pizzas or something.
Yes, exactly. And you have this amazing moment where like you're playing the game and you finally figure out like, you dabbled. And you do that 50 times. What a deal for $30. You have 30 aha moments of video game freshness. And by the way, these games range from 7 out of 10s to 10 out of 10s. None of them are bad.
Yeah.
None of them are bad.
Single one that I don't like in some way.
They are all good in their own respect. And if there's one that I bounced off of, I didn't think that game was bad. I thought, I bet someone else would love that game.
Right.
But just not me. I don't want to play the stealth game where you rob the train. But
oh my God, I want to play that.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
So fucking good.
I
Oh my God. Okay.
I'm gonna do like one a piece, or what do you want?
Snob hat coming off.
Like,
because
I've got a top 5, but I don't think we'll get to do a top 5, so I can maybe do my top 3 here.
I mean, we have plenty of time. We're at 22 minutes. We got 20 minutes still we can kill before we really need to get to our what else you got.
Okay.
I would love to do a segment on each one of these games. That's how, because none of them, just again, if we want to like say anything as umbrella comments about the game before we dive into the notes.
Yeah.
The 2-player essence of it all. I played so many of these with my girlfriend, and she loved so many of them.
Yeah.
They're all so, I know we already said that they're all pretty good, but none of them are just like normal. Is the best way I can explain it. Like Buck said, you think it's like going to be you're flying in a ship and then you're delivering onions in a Grand Theft Auto style view.
That was good. I got to play that one.
You said it, I think earlier today when you were playing one of them, and you're like, wait, what's the twist? And you found the mechanic, and it's like, yes, every game has a twist in the mechanic that you expect, a subversion of what you're expecting.
It says that in the wiki, and it's just like, it's true. I can't explain the difference between... Okay, Paperboy, like I mentioned earlier for the Nintendo, amazing game by coincidence. But there were a lot of Nintendo games that just like weren't there. They weren't it, Chief, right? There's a lot of games in UFO 50 that look like those games, but then they end up being amazing because of, like Raph said, tiny little tweak.
That's what I was going to say is I found myself almost every one, and I was very pleasantly surprised many times, but almost every one reminded me of an NES or a SNES game I already have played.
Absolutely.
I played this. I'm like, oh, that's like Metal Storm. And I play this and it's like, oh, this is like Pocky and Rocky. And it's like
that one game that's basically Ghosts and Goblins, but in India.
They all have that indie game twist that we have all gotten more recently with all the indie games being way, way more polished from everything from, Hades to Hyper Light Drifter, right? It's the same premises, but you get that extra little twist or fun or gameplay, or it's not even about the graphics. None of them have. I mean, I love pixel graphics. Don't get me wrong; they're gorgeous.
These
but
games
they're not
fantastic,
amazing 3D AAA shit.
Right. And the ones that came from 1982 are obviously significantly less, fidel. But then the ones at the end of the collection, I just spoke about how this was the exact way that I enjoy ingesting games, and how the reason for that is because of my childhood. This is how I started ingesting games. But Buck has not gotten through the collection of 50
No.
games yet because he plays games differently. So, Buck, I wanted you to speak on that a little bit because
Yeah.
we talked a bit of it
I'd love to
slightly
hear about
before.
this.
But yes, go on.
Because one of my favorite games of all time, and this is going to sound weird, but I'll explain why. One of my favorite games of all time is The Seventh Guest for
Okay,
every console now, but PC, everything else under the sun.
famous.
And my favorite thing about Seventh Guest is I love critical thinking puzzles. And Seventh Guest not only throws critical thinking puzzles at you, they do not give you the rules. You have to experiment to find the rules. And so many of these games, like Max said, it says you do this and shoot, and that's it. But then you have like the one, I don't remember the name of it, where you play as the little, it's like cat something. You play as a little plant looking thing.
Yeah, moon
Yeah.
cat. Yeah.
And
Ugh,
and
Moon
and you
Cat.
you hold a button to go a certain way,
Yeah.
and then
There's
you
only
have to
2
hold
buttons.
another button. It's not left and right. It's not that easy. And you learn that you double tap to jump. It's like Animal Well. You're learning things as you go and other stuff
Right.
too. When there was another one that I fired up, when I played like Party House. And what
Love
happens is
Party
you fire those
House.
games up, and they just introduce you with gameplay right away because they're an NES game, which was the way NES games were back
There
then.
was
Yes.
no tutorial, you know.
No.
But most of the time, you
The
had an
tutorial
instruction
is your
booklet.
first 3 lives where you're going
Yes.
fuck,
And
fuck.
so a lot of times, so a lot of times with those games, when we were kids, you either bought it and this is your game for this month, kid, or you rented it, so you got it for the weekend. So you can't just put it away and say I'm going to go do something else. You better play it and enjoy it. So you're either hoping it gets better or hoping you get better through muscle memory and learning. But then all of these games do that thing that they can do with indie games now, where they throw more mechanics at you. They throw enemies that come from different angles or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
That was so cool to me because I was constantly comparing it to Super Nintendo and everything else games that I loved. But it brought back that feeling of I don't know what I'm doing. And if I only spend a couple minutes with that game, I'm not going to get the full experience because I didn't bother to stick with it long enough to learn the strategy of it.
Mhm.
There's everything. There's the one where you're moving towards each other and it looks like you're going to have this giant skirmish of a fight and you muster troops only to realize that you're like playing marbles. Like
Yeah.
you have the
Yeah.
giant
Oh
ogre
yeah,
or
you're talking
troop
about
or
Pog
rat.
you're talking about
Yeah.
disc. Hold on, I have it. I have a
Knights
a
of
list of
Disconia or something like
Knights
that.
of Disconia.
This
yes.
is exactly like NES game. It was like when I brought Spot as a retro zone. You're like, oh, Spot. Okay, you've never played it before. Tell me how you think you play Spot. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's a platformer with the spot. No. I don't know. Maybe it's this. No, it's a fellow.
Why do I not have it on this list? That's crazy.
But there's just
Yes.
they surprise you with that. Like you get that box art syndrome where you see the little cartridge and you go, oh, that's a pretty cool little thing. I'll try that one. And then the game has absolutely nothing to do with the box.
Raph, what are your overall thoughts on UFO
Well,
50? We both just ranted.
I guess I've got thoughts on like individual games here, and I'm gonna just briefly go over kind of my top 5,
Okay.
and then kind of give you my general consensus thoughts on this thing. So my number 5 would be Bushido Ball. Game is
Nice.
What-
immediately playable.
I think it's my favorite game in the collection.
Bushido Ball is just Windjammers with samurai.
Yes.
It feels just the
It's
second
great.
you jump into it, it's immediately playable. You get it like immediately, and every single character feels unique and interesting. They all have their own unique abilities. The mechanics feel really good.
But if you've played Windjammers, you immediately know how to do all the things
Most
you do
of the
in this
stuff
game.
in there, yeah, right, yeah, and
Which I
that's the
like. I like
analog
that.
of like the old school game.
It's a good thing.
My number 4, dude, is Valbrace. This game
Haven't played that
is
one yet.
a first-person
Ugh.
dungeon crawler in the style of Legends of Grimrock or Ultima. I think is
Oh,
also like this.
Or like Shadowgate or something.
Yeah, right. But then when you get into a fight, it turns into Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Yes.
It sounds
Yes.
so cool.
Fucking
Yes.
incredible, dude.
Yeah, it slaps. It's a roguelike dungeon crawler that turns
It's
into Mike
so
Tyson's
good.
Punch Out.
It's got
You
this
can-
spell mechanic
Yeah,
where you
this is
find
fantastic.
you can cast spells from the beginning of the game, but the way you do it is you hold down a button and you press a series of directions. So the only thing stopping you from casting the spells is that you don't know which directions to press. So as you explore the game, you
Like
find glyphs on the walls that will tell you how to cast the spells,
Yes.
but then you have to just remember.
Remember the order,
No,
the shape
this
of
is a
the thing.
Nintendo game.
Yeah.
You need a
Yep.
pad of paper. You need to write down. One of my buddies growing up, his dad used graph paper to map out the dungeons in Legend of Zelda.
That's how people used to play the original Metroid too. They would draw the map. Yeah.
Nice. It's Lords of Disconia, by the way.
That's
That's
what it
why
was,
I couldn't find it. It's Lords.
Um,
But yeah, that game's great.
yeah.
That Raph just mentioned.
my next one,
Yes.
which is the one that surprised me probably the most out of this, was a game called Grimstone.
Dude, oh my god.
Yes.
Buck, have you
Yeah.
not gotten to this?
No, I don't believe
Oh
so.
my
Like, oh my god, you would.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Oh my
Okay,
god.
so the intro to this game is one of the coolest in the entire collection.
Yes. Oh,
It
yes.
starts off with this sort of like meeting inside of like this old timey Old West saloon, and then boom, there's a fire, and then you get to play as an angel, and this angel comes and rescues four
Well,
of the
it just
people.
you're okay.
Yeah,
No, you have
yeah.
to frame it. It's you're an angel,
Yeah,
and you're sitting in a tavern that is on fire,
right,
and there's a bunch of bodies
right, yes,
scattered all over the tavern,
yes,
and it looks a lot like Final Fantasy IV.
yes,
And you go up to the first person, and then click A, and it says this person looks like this, and looks like
Describes
they might be
them-
able to do this.
right.
Do you want to save them? Yes or no? And I immediately went,
It's
oh my
ActRaiser.
god, this is a JRPG. Oh my god.
It
Oh
is
my
a-
god. I'm
Buck,
selecting
it's
I'm selecting my party.
It's a cowboy JRPG.
West of
And-
Loathing?
What's up?
There's a stick figure cowboy RPG called
Oh
West
yeah,
of
West
Loathing.
of Loathing. Yes. No, this is just it. I wrote down that it feels like a combination of Final Fantasy, Earthbound, and a splash of Chrono Trigger thrown
Audience, do you see what I'm talking about here? You're like, what are you doing? You're in a saloon. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
a fire breaks out. Now you're an angel. Pick who
Yes.
lives and who dies. Like, that's NES games in a nutshell.
when you
Like,
pick-
how much imagination you got, kids?
in
Yeah.
there. Like I had no idea what to expect from this game. When I picked everybody, then I went outside and I realized, oh my god, I've just chosen my party of 4.
Cool.
Yeah, and
and then you walk outside the town and you hit a full-blown Final Fantasy world map and it's like oh shit.
Yes.
Some
My
of these
party-
games are
my
that
party
big.
in this
Yes.
game is a sharpshooting outlaw, a boxer, a
one-armed doctor.
saloon like piano lady, and a
And
dog,
a dung sifter.
and a dog. And it's just like
A
this
dog,
is,
yeah.
I love it. I've fucking because I rescued the dog first.
So my number
sorry.
2,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not
great.
going to talk too much about it because I figured that Buck, you may want to talk about this one. But my
Okay.
number 2 is Night Manor.
Yes, I will talk
Um,
about Night Manor.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to talk about it now. Or
Okay,
I can move
just
on
go
and you
for
can
it,
hop into
yeah.
Go ahead.
Dude, freaking Night Manor. Like, so Night Manor was like the 8th or 10th game I played in the 50 because I went out of order. I had seen some
Yeah.
YouTubers play the first like 10 or 15. I'm like, I'm gonna go in different order, reverse order, do some of these. Night Manor. Trapped in a nightmare where you must use your wits to survive is their description. It is a point and click old collection like Monkey Island style point and click adventure game trapped in a haunted house
Yeah.
with a masked killer chasing you.
It is a survival horror point and click.
And I was
Yeah.
like,
And it
that was the
kicks
moment.
ass.
That was
Yeah.
the moment that this game that I went, if they're going this far with one of these 50 games,
Yes.
And by
oh
the
my
way,
God, are you in for a
that
ride?
game in particular, Night Manor, looks incredible. It's probably the
Yes.
best looking game in the
It is
collection.
absolutely. It feels
It's
It
in
very
the late
starts-
cinematic.
80s collection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It starts with this scene of someone driving a car
Mhm.
and they're thinking and looking in the in their
Mhm.
rearview mirror, and then
Mhm.
they're their car hits somebody, and it made me go and I fucking
Yeah.
jumped because the fidelity is just high enough to where
Yeah.
it was legit scary.
Yeah, that's one of the endings in Clock Tower too. One of the endings in this is very similar to one of the endings in Clock Tower. But
It feels
one of-
very Clock Tower.
one of the craziest things is so you're doing point and click stuff. Dig this up, find this key, use this key to open this, find the next item. They're constantly locked behind doors, and
Right.
you're exploring,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
you're
yeah.
exploring a haunted house while you're doing this. But this murderer will show up periodically, and you have choices. You can try and fight them off. You can run away, but it's a point and click. So even if you're playing on PC and not like a Steam Deck, something else, you have to use an analog stick to move the cursor to try and move away. And when the killer's on screen, you lose partial control of your cursor and
Yeah.
it shakes around the screen like you're scared and nervous, and it's harder to get to the door.
Yeah.
And if you get far enough away, depending on what room you're in, the killer finds
hide.
you. You
Yeah.
then have to do a little quick time event to hide in the bushes or
Yeah.
hide in a closet, or which is funny because I just played the Five Nights at Freddy's Into the Pit game, and that's exactly how all the hiding mechanics work in that game too.
You have
There's
to
little
tap
mini
the
games
thing as it goes
every
back
time
and
you-
forth.
every
Yeah.
time you hide. And if you get caught, it's not game over. It just keeps track of how many nightmares you've had.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
a lot of the games are like that. They'll just keep track of how many deaths you had, and you can just
And
keep playing them.
So my problem though is like that game, as soon as I found it, it was like, I'm not putting this down.
Yeah,
I'm playing
right,
this.
yeah.
I've only
Yeah.
played UFO 50 for like 3 or 4 hours, and an hour of it was freaking Night Manor, and I got one of the not as great endings, but I escaped, air quotes.
And you just got more endings to find.
And then it told me
Yeah.
64% is the items that I had found, and I was like, oh
That's
shit.
wild, and that just
Wow.
speaks to like how big some of these games are. Speaking of big, my number one here is the one that I really want to talk about, and that's Mini and Max. Holy
Yeah, dude.
shit, dude! Mini
This
and
game
Max
is Chippendale Rescue Rangers
exactly what I was gonna
plus
say.
Minish Cap plus Super Metroid. Like,
It is one of the best Metroidvanias I've played in a very long time.
such a good
honestly.
idea.
Like,
Yeah,
you know,
but gameplay style is very much so Chippendale Rescue Rangers. Like I
I
got that.
didn't
It's funny you said that.
know.
That's the exact vibe I got immediately.
I had heard that this
Yeah.
one was good, and when I got into it, and I was like, okay, what is this? Oh, I could shrink. Oh shit!
You could
When I shrink,
anywhere in this room.
it's a whole. Yes, that's the thing that blew my mind. Is that I'm like, I could jump on the shelf,
Yeah.
shrink here, and I'm in a completely different environment.
That was the first thing I accidentally did, was jump on a shelf with the books, and then I was like, okay, that was all right. Oh, I died. Okay, whatever else. And I went,
Yeah.
what if I shrink by this plug? Oh, I get it.
I shrank
Okay.
in the potted plant, and then you're in a potted plant world. It's crazy.
you play as a little
It's-
girl, to clarify, who is
Yeah.
locked in a closet by her sister.
With her
Yeah.
dog.
And so seemingly
dog,
it's like
yeah.
there's nowhere to explore. But then, like Raph said, you get the ability to shrink because your dog allows you to. And then all of a sudden, all of the places in your room become huge areas to explore. And you can go to any one of them, as they're saying. And it's cute above all else. It's probably the cutest game. The dog has big curly hair, and it's so adorable.
This game, honestly, the art, it's incredibly charming. And this, honestly,
Yeah.
like, I feel like this segues well into my overall thoughts about the game. The art is incredibly charming. The platforming feels fantastic. The
Yeah.
ability to pick up blocks, stack them to climb things, throwing them as weapons. I'm just finding a bunch of little paths through the game, through this game by getting big and shrinking down in different spots. It's very, very fun.
You would
And
like
this is one
Chippendale's
of-
Rescue Rangers.
Right, yeah. And honestly, going into like my overall thoughts on this game is just the collection is just beyond worth the cost. Like every game
So
in
much
this
so.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
collection feels so accurate to the time period that it's trying to invoke.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's a singular in-house style. Like you were saying earlier, it feels like, every Nintendo game kind of feels like it was made by Nintendo, even though it's different IPs and different styles.
Yeah.
But they all have this cohesive art style, musical
From like
styling.
a quality standpoint.
Right.
Like they all have that
Yeah.
quality. Like
Yeah.
the controls are all really, really tight and really good in all of the games,
Yeah.
unless they're not supposed to be. Like
Right,
in
like the
Barbuda,
one where
when
you
they're
play
supposed to be
The
clunky as shit.
walrus or whatever.
I haven't done
where
that
you
one
fly
yet. I
through
saw
the
it,
air.
but-
Oh my
Waldorf's
God, so
Journey
good.
is like one of my favorites.
But
That's
all
one of my
those-
honorable
amazing.
mentions.
If
in
the
here.
controls are a little kooky, it's
Yeah.
because that's a mechanic of the game, not a
Right.
limitation of hardware like back in the day, or a lack of testing or creativity like back in the day.
It
Bro,
feels
fucking Golfaria.
It feels like
Golfaria.
six Banksies like just did like a thing together. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Where like it's
Mhm.
oh my god, it's incredible. So those were your 5. I have several that I want to touch on. Buck, did you have any you wanted to touch on first?
No, if you want to talk
Besides-
about yours, I mean,
okay.
I've got a couple too, and I've got some other overall thoughts.
So
but yeah.
I have so many thoughts on all of them. First of
I'm
all,
surprised.
the first,
I wasn't surprised that we overlapped on Night Manor, but I'm not surprised that most of these others don't overlap. So
Barbuda, the first game that you get in the collection, is one where I started it up, and the very first thing that happens is if you go to the right, a
Which you
rock
will.
drops on you
Which
and you die.
every-
And I immediately thought, I love this, because then you can jump on the rock and go to the area that's just to the right of that. I walked to the next screen
Mhm.
and then walked down to a part where I got down to this ladder and there was a jump that was too far. And I went, oh, well, I guess I won't make it. And then my girlfriend said, go up and then jump off. And I went, oh. So I went up the ladder to the next screen
Mhm.
and then jumped off that
Fell down.
screen, fell down
Oh,
a screen,
yeah.
but kept my momentum and then landed in that thing and went, this is going to be a good game.
So for-
Immediately. And I stopped playing it because this one is the most rudimentary graphically control. There's no background music. Your character moves very slow,
Mhm.
but the like I wrote in my notes, it has funny difficulty spikes. It's slow. It's quiet. It's confusing. so I want to go back and play it.
Yeah, right. It's funny because every
it
single
sounds
one of these,
exactly like some shit I would love.
every single one of these, and I'm just going to do this for the rest of the episode. Sorry, I'm going to compare them to like an NES or
Yeah.
Super Nintendo.
No,
ahead.
that's fair. Yeah. I kinda wanna
Barbuda
know, yeah.
is Legacy of the Wizard minus the extra characters.
Okay.
Okay.
Vanguard. Raph mentioned it
Vanguard,
before.
love that
Buck,
game
you're
too.
gonna fucking love when you get to this game. It is Metal Storm. It's literally Metal Storm
I
with
think I did try that.
with Metroid. But a Metroid where you get multiple lives per save zone, basically. So
Mhm.
you'll go to a next area, hit the save spot there, then you get
Cool.
3 lives that you get to use before you have to game
Oh,
over.
Very cool.
But yeah, it's got straight up gravity reversal and guns, and
Yeah.
you fucking play as a kick-ass looking camo green mech that is
I
just
saw
like,
someone play this one. And I skipped it on
Ooh,
purpose
it's
just because I
so-
knew I'd go back to it.
Like
That's
a
funny.
Kamen Rider style like robot. He looks like Kamen Rider.
He looks like
so
a bug.
cool.
Yeah, it's so cool. One game, Pilot Quest, is a game that
Oh, yeah.
is really cool. That's worth mentioning. So it's a game that like in the blurb, in the developer blurb, it says, "Oh, this game is notable for using the internal clock of the LX to have time progress even when you're not playing it." So when you start a game of Pilot Quest, you basically you start in like a little camp area and you play as this character who is featured in a lot of the other games. It almost seems like this company's like Mario. It's like this red spaceman guy, and you're in like a little town and you can basically do nothing. You can basically do nothing besides like hit this crystal and make shards come off of it, and then use those shards to plant these like little seeds
Oh,
that will
I did
slowly
play this
give you.
one.
And so what you'll do is you set up a bunch of stuff to gather resources for you, and then you go play other games in UFO 50.
Yeah.
And when you come back, the game will have said all these things got collected while you were out playing other stuff.
Oh, that's like the 4th game I played. I'm gonna have a lot of
And
stuff.
then
and I
you
made like
use-
3 or 4
Let's start that
plants
one
too.
you
first.
use
Yeah.
some of those resources to basically pay one of the NPCs to play Zelda for 120
Yes.
seconds.
Yeah.
Like he says like, for 1 schmeckle, I'll let you into the wild, and you give him a schmeckle, and then it literally 120-second countdown starts, and then you do a screen by screen level adventure like Zelda, where it's like you get to the
Yeah.
edge of a screen and then like moves you over to the next
Uh-huh.
screen, and,
And
while you're
that
out there, you
neat-
gather
those-
those resources that normally take a long time to
Yeah.
create, like all at
Ah.
once.
If you have more of the meats too, those stack, so you can be out there longer and longer.
So
Depending
funny.
How much meat you have.
It's just
yeah.
funny because like that's the one we have the yo-yo, right? So
Yes.
it's one of
Yeah,
those games
yeah.
where it starts you out and it's like, how do you play this? They're not gonna tell
No.
you.
Yeah.
So you're
They're
like talking to a guy, I'm like, how do I get this resource? What's this big crystal? Smack. Oh.
No, the very first thing that happens is there's a green lizard to your left,
Yeah.
and you think, oh, I better hit him, and you
It's
hit
an
him, and
enemy.
he says,
How about-
interesting. Maybe try talking to me. Like, God damn it, I love this
and
game.
it's the game going, we're not gonna give you the rules.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And then Party House. Buck already mentioned it. This game is so fucking good. You are.
I
It's
beat the first
2-player.
party.
I
beat
played
the,
with.
I beat the alien party.
I played with Tish,
Nice.
and
Oh,
we
that's so
were fucking
cool.
got so into it. It's basically it's a quest to see who can get like a max out their popularity by throwing parties.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a poker game where you're trying to get to as high a score as you can without like busting the party, because some of the party goers are like troublemakers. So
Mhm.
they'll have like they'll give you this currency and that currency, but also they cause this much trouble. And like when you get to the edge of your trouble meter, like it'll be like, oh, watch out, the party's getting rowdy, and like all the different guests do have different abilities to the thing. It's so much to explain, but Party House kicks so much ass. I loved
that was
it.
a game where I started playing it and I did the first thing, and the first thing that happened was too many troublemakers show up and my first party was a bust, and I was like, what the fuck is this game? I'm like,
Yeah,
"Stick
and you're
with
like,
it,
I
figure-
don't understand.
figure it out, okay, and go a couple more. Can't use any abilities because none of your early guys have them, and then it started to be like, okay, I get this. Okay,
Yeah.
and next thing you know, I couldn't stop until
Yep.
I beat the first
So
party.
fucking good. And
that
then
one I don't have any comparisons for. I tried to think really hard because I did get to play that one, but that one is extremely unique. Other than the graphics, almost kind of scream Maniac Mansion
yes,
with the furniture and stuff.
Alphazar's hat is the Pocky and Rocky like.
Oh, okay.
That's a 2. I played that with Tish, and she was like, I love this because
It's
it's
Pocky and
so
Rocky.
adorable. And it's basically, if you ever played Pocky and Rocky, that's like almost like a shmup beat 'em
is.
up combo kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And
this
then
one.
my top 2 favorite games, I think these, besides the one that Raph mentioned before, these 2 are, oh my god, so good. Quibble Race is basically just a
off-road,
dog
right?
track simulator.
It's off-road. It's
No,
like
you just bet on.
Oh,
these,
I didn't do that one.
there's
I
like
did the
these-
racing version.
There's these little
the other
guys
game.
called Quibbles, and they're just like these ugly little guys. And you play a certain number of rounds, and every round the Quibbles race.
Yeah.
Before the race, you bet on which Quibble is going to win, and you can adjust how much money you want to bet. And then you can also do a couple different things. You can gather information about one of the Quibbles that's about to race.
Oh, this one's the fastest,
and also
but he's
some
clumsy,
general
you know?
right. This
Yeah.
one's the fastest one out of all the Quibbles, or this one's clumsy.
This one had
and
too much pasta
You
before
can
the
also
race.
you can sabatage the Quibbles.
Yeah.
You can
pay
poison
somebody to
them. You can
sabotage
like
them?
gimp them.
I love
you can
it.
also you can like bolster a Quibble. Like you can like give them some steroids before the thing. Like maybe
Yeah.
you can
You need some go-go
sponsor
juice,
the
buddy?
Quibbles so that if
Yeah.
they win and you're their sponsor, you get bonus cash because it's like your Quibble. So it's like
It's corrupt horse racing simulator with
the
cute little
way
Quibbles.
you play 2-player. I played it with Tish and we fucking loved it. Is that when you're doing your pre-race round, when you're placing your bets and you're like maybe sabotaging one of the Quibbles, one of the other things you can do is like pay to, instead of sabotaging, to keep a Quibble safe, either from being fucked up in a negative way or maybe from getting juiced up. Maybe you know someone, you're like, that guy's Quibble is about to go for a race and it's got low odds. I bet he's going to juice it up before the race to try to win. I'm gonna put a guard on him so he can't juice his own Quibble. But then when you do that, somebody fucks up your Quibble, and you're like, "Ooh, who did that?" Because when you're doing that round, the game says, "Okay, everybody whose turn it isn't, look away from the screen." And then when you're done, you say, "Okay, now it's your turn." And then I turn around, and Tish does all her betting and all her deception, and then we both turn and we watch the race. And then it's just like, "Oh, come on, Quibble! Oh, come on, Dingus!" Because they all have ridiculous names, dude. I'm gonna Quibble race right after this. But I think the game that is the best, and it was the
Okay.
best 2-player experience, was Seaside Drive.
That's on my list.
Oh,
I love
that's
it.
a banger.
Seaside Drive.
Seaside Drive has 2-player?
Yeah.
Dude, when you play Seaside Drive 2-player, one of you drives and the other one is the guns.
I was going to say this game is basically Firepower 2000, and now it's definitely Firepower 2000.
So
'cause it
the
has a
way it
2-player
works
mode.
is it's basically a shmup kind of thing, but you're playing as a car on the ground, and you have a gun that can shoot forward or in an arc all above you or backwards, and you power up the gun by drifting.
By drifting.
And the way you drift is just like you go to the front of the screen and then you press left to like go like, which like makes you slowly skirt to the back of the screen. So the game becomes like dodging the bullets by going back and forth to get your bar up to the level 3 guns and then maintaining it.
Yeah.
And me and Tish were like that episode of Evangelion where they got to do the synchronized dance, bro. We were fucking killing it. I was the driver, and like I just like
That's good,
let my
'cause you just gotta
eyes
keep 'em alive.
relax, and I was just like, I was like fucking
Yeah.
Hero Yui in the fucking Gundam. Like I was like, and she was just like playing this game better than
That's
I've
cool.
ever seen her play any other video game ever. She was, there's like bosses that are like a big brick that's going to fall on you, and you can like shoot it and punch it up. And so the brick bounces off the ground and it's going to like bounce and crash on top of us. And instead she swivels the gun and like and floats it over us. And so I drive under it and then pull back to charge up the gun. Bro, Seaside Drive kicks.
I
ass.
enjoy that
Oh
one a
my
lot.
God. UFO 50 is incredible. It's amazing. That's it. I mean, we have to stop talking about it because
Wait,
our
I've got one
episode has
more.
to end. Okay, go ahead. Which one?
Cyber Owls.
I was gonna say this. I was
Dude,
gonna
okay.
ask you guys about this one. It's
Cyber
X-Men
Owls.
Mutant Apocalypse.
Cyber Owls is Power Blade or Power Blade 2 for the
Cyber
NES.
Owls
that
is
too, yeah.
4 different types
Yeah.
of action games that touch each other with a roguelike game.
Yeah.
Because have you tried to rescue any of the guys as the other guys yet?
I just
No.
got to touch it, and
Okay.
but before this,
So-
and I loved it so much because Power Blade is known in like the NES community, especially the second one. It's that game where you play it and you go, "You sure this is a Nintendo game? Hey, Steve, is this a Nintendo game?" Yeah,
Buck's got this new bit that he loves where he talks
I love
off
it.
screen.
It's really fun. Yeah,
It's pretty funny. It works.
but
This
it's really
game-
good and clever and fun and has great graphics and the controls are so tight. Yeah, and it's a Nintendo game.
It starts out with this amazing Mega Man X looking cutscene where 4 biker mice from Mars essentially are like hauled up in like
But
in
owls.
and they're all birds or whatever, and it's like, oh, Hawk, which is an HAWK, is like is taking over the world. They've got an intergalactic ballistic missile. We have to go stop it. And then you have these 4 heroes that just like are 4 different styles. Like they have their 4 independent levels, and there's 4 different styles of arcade beat 'em up. So like one of them is like
one of them is Metal Gear, actually.
one of them is
feels
Metal
like
Gear. Literally,
Awesome.
you're a lady who's like top down view. It's stealth. You've got like a trank gun. You've got a gun, and you're trying to stay out of guys. One of them is like almost like Streets of Rage, but with more verticality. You're playing as this owl guy who's got punches and kicks, and it's like, I guess it's more like Super Double Dragon or something.
I played that one. That's the one that makes me think of Power Blade. That's the way Power Blade is.
Then you play one where you're like this like gecko on a motorcycle, so it's like all the levels on like like The Simpsons or Ninja Turtles, where like the level of Ninja Turtles where you're on the skateboards, right? And you're like moving left to right, quote unquote. The background's it's that you're on a motorcycle, and so there's like you'll shoot a bunch of cars and it'll explode, and then it'll stay in the road, so it slowly comes at you. You have to swerve out of the way so it doesn't hit you. And then one of them is like the one that's like the owl guy with the machine gun, where you're moving left to right on a panel. And then when you begin shooting, he becomes stationary. And then when you move your cursor, instead of moving him left to right, now it just moves the cursor. So you're like moving on this battlefield left to right, and there's guys shooting at you. It's like nothing I've ever seen before.
Yeah.
So you play these 4 different arcade games, basically. And if you lose at any one of them, that character becomes like trapped in jail.
Like the first Ninja Turtles game.
And you can
It
send,
reminds me of X-Men Mutant Apocalypse, honestly.
and then you can send one of the other heroes out to go rescue them. And the way you do that is you go into their respective level, and it becomes a roguelike game where it's literally top down, and it's one of those things where every time you move, everybody else moves. And all 4 of those characters that I just mentioned have their own powers in that version of the game that are completely different. So like the guy who was on the bike has the ability to dash 2 squares in a turn using a power, and then he has a gun. And then the other character, like, it's just like, oh my god.
Wait. So Cyber Owls is 5 games in one inside of a game.
So it's
that's
UFO
just games
55.
One. What?
Exactly.
All of these games we just mentioned are all in one game.
That's
that
insane.
costs $30.
I think it's only 25.
I
It's
spent $26. Yeah,
absolutely amazing. It is a gaming marvel. It's a feat of design, and it's like one of those things. Well, I was thinking as I was going to the bathroom today, man, these artists worked their asses off for a game that costs $30, like 26. You know what I mean? I was just like, 6 guys went in on a paycheck for a game that they could have charged $60 for, and said they're like, fuck it, charge $25. Like, it's just like, thank you to the people who made the game. Like, I guess, you know what I mean? Like, thank you for making a game that I walked away from going, like, Raph watched me playing this a lot on my laptop in the living room. And like, at one point I just said, like, I love video games. Like, there's so many good video games just inside this one video game.
My favorite thing of the last couple of days is watching Mac play this, just quietly watching him and seeing his jaw literally drop several times whenever he would start a new game.
This game is going to slowly keep rolling with Steam because it's getting more and more popular already after it came out. Like I said, I didn't tell these guys about it for almost 2 weeks because it was still spooky month and we were still doing horror games, and I didn't want to derail
heard about
them.
This game for years, and the podcasters that I listen to have been anticipating this game with bated breath.
Cool.
No, I heard this for the first time last week when you guys mentioned it.
So what's going to happen? This game only came out on Steam, correct?
Yes. So right now.
So this game over the next year or 2 is going to get the Balatro / Vampire Survivors treatment. It's going to get put out on all the consoles, both digital, probably a physical.
God, I hope so.
Might end up coming out on your phone.
But it gets a physical, oh my God.
It's so great, and it's already taking off. I think these guys will do really well.
Buck, and like, we didn't even mention a fraction, like 1/10 of the games on here, and I can't wait to get your once you've played all the games. I'll be excited.
It's gonna take forever
because some of them are so obscure, some of them are so random. Like, yeah, oh my God. Okay, so we have to stop talking about it because I want to go play it. So let's go ahead, take a break, move on to our what else you got. and then I can go play UFO 50. All right, we'll be right back. Okay, what else have we got this week, gentlemen? The What Else You Got segment of our show where we bring anything to the table, be it video game or, in my case this week, animes. 3
Ooh.
different animes I've watched this
Wow.
week. So 1, the new Gundam Requiem for a Vengeance.
Oh yeah.
The all CG Unreal Engine like Gundam where the Zeons are the good guys, and it's about how the Gundam is like basically a 50 stories tall Jason.
Yeah.
Like he's like he's
Literally.
just like
No,
a
literally,
horrifying
yeah.
monster. That just like
That's funny.
if you come into his wake, he's just like he's going to kill everyone that you love, and it's like literally it's like
Down to
they-
the slow turn from him. Like that's straight,
Spoilers:
yeah.
if you're a Gundam fan, the Space Noids aren't really the bad guys.
yeah. Well, I mean, when you watch this and then you also watch the like MS-08 team, it's almost
Yeah.
like they're both bad.
Yes,
They're
both bad? Yeah.
They are both bad.
Yeah, it's
It's
war
true.
as hell, I guess, is
Yeah.
the thing. This
The whole
show
point.
really, I don't want to spoil it because I think Buck, you should watch it. But
Yeah, I'm
'cause
only
we
like
talked
2
about it a
episodes
little
in.
bit. Oh, okay, so you have watched it a little bit. So
Yes.
it's a war show. It's 100%. It does the like it literally starts out. One thing I said to Raph was I've never seen a Gundam show scale up the action as well as this show does, where literally it starts with some people
Ground
on the
conflict,
ground,
an
and
ambush or
like
whatever,
you
yeah.
watch some people like shoot and kill each other, and it's violent to the point where you go, oh boy, that's terrible. And then like a tank shows up and it kills like 10 people, and you're like, oh my god, that's awful. And then a mobile suit shows up and kills a bunch of people, and then the Gundam shows up and you're like, oh, it's like Godzilla. Like
Yeah.
it's like a lot of people are dying. This show is retoned
Mm.
Gundam and made
you-
it like, oh, I never thought about it this way.
It's
You know what I
definitely
mean?
more horror-y, but if you've
Yeah.
never seen Iron-Blooded Orphans, you definitely get all the vibes that you just
Sure,
described.
Yeah, I was gonna
yes,
say
minus
yeah.
Gundam is all about
the horrors of war
crimes, you know?
aspect. Yeah.
child soldiers and
But
shit.
it's just the line. How does it move so fast? Like
Right,
that line
yeah.
was so.
But to say the
scary.
difference is
Like,
that the main characters are not Gundam pilots.
Yeah.
They are just some They're like Saving Private Ryan, basically,
Yeah.
because it's
Pretty
literally
much.
the beginning starts with like,
Yeah.
yay, and then like, oh fuck, and then from
Well,
then
like-
on, it's just them like, oh shit, and they're just scrambling to not get killed by the scariest thing they've ever seen in their life.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Really good. I've also watched the first episode of Dan Da Dan,
Mm.
which is killing it on Netflix. People have been talking about that show on social media quite a
gotta
bit.
check that out, yeah.
It's raunchy and it's sci-fi and it's horror and it's comedy. It's all those things. I've only watched.
So it's
the first...
Family Matters.
I don't understand why you would say that. But
you obviously didn't watch all the episodes of Family Matters back when it aired in the 90s.
that's amazing. I'm going to clip that. So, and then finally, I watched Dragon Ball Daima, the first episode of that. That's the
How
new
was that?
Dragon Ball. I love it. It's
Okay.
Kira Toriyama, R.I.P. And this show is a very Akira Toriyama vibe because they all get turned into kids. Because the main villain is like a cute little guy. He's like it like warps you back to it. Like literally does like this awesome montage in the beginning where it just says like, okay, this is what happened in Dragon Ball. First, Goku meets Bulma, and then it does all the way up to the Buu saga, and then it says like, and we're here now. So that's where it starts basically, and it has like, I don't know if you remember the character Dabura, but he's the guy that brings Majin Buu back to life, and
Okay.
this character revolves around a character that knows him, and basically he does a thing to get the Dragon Balls to make a wish to turn all the characters of Dragon Ball into kid versions of themselves.
Yeah.
And he also turns the kid characters into babies, notably.
I thought,
But
why
yeah,
wouldn't they get older? Why wouldn't he swap them? Why
that's
make them
his well, because he doesn't want to fight him. Yeah, his premise is that he's like trying to be like, oh, these guys beat Majin Buu, like, so I can't beat them, but I could like make them weak by turning them all into kids. Which obviously, it's ironic because if you're a
You know
Dragon
that
Ball fan,
Gohan
you're like,
was-
they're
I mean,
still gonna
Goku,
kick
yeah.
your ass,
Yeah.
dude.
Goku could kick
but
your ass when he was a kid.
He's like a cute little guy, so he's like all naive and shit. And then they get turned into kids. They're all cute. And this show's got something I've been waiting for forever, which is Baby Vegeta. You got Kid
Oh,
Vegeta,
yeah.
and I love him to pieces because I fucking love Vegeta. So it was really cute. The first
Oh my
episode
gosh.
starts with like Vegeta and Goku sparring for the umpteenth millionth time. And I'll say this, it never gets old. it never gets old to watch a new fight scene between Goku and Vegeta in Dragon Ball.
Awesome.
Period.
Yeah.
All
Kid
right, so
Vegeta.
that does it for me. I liked all 3 of those animes that I watched. Buck, what else
Yeah.
have you got for us this week?
Well, hot on the heels of the announcement of the Charles Xavier Institute for Gifted Children X-Men Lego playset.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
I was like, shit, I should probably get to building my D&D one. So I'm on book 2 of 4.
Of instruction manuals.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Each one of these books is like this thick. There's
man.
4 of them. This thing's as many pieces as the Daily Bugle and the Home Alone house was. It's like 4,000 pieces. And I'm in the middle of the courtyard, which kind of is looking like this so far for the YouTube kids. But so far it's been broken into pieces. The first book was the inn, like the tavern.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is like the courtyard, like garden. So I'm guessing there's still like the dungeon area and the dragon and all that other stuff to go to. But it's a
the
beast.
dungeon and the dragon. You know.
Yeah.
I did get to make the gelatinous cube at the beginning of this,
Ooh,
or
how
the
does
end of the
that
first
look?
book.
I hope
pretty
it's just
cool.
like one giant Lego brick that they just
Yeah,
give to
right.
you, plastic
Yeah, right.
wrap.
No, it's made out of that like frosted like blue glass, and like they have you like put different things inside, like a skeleton
Oh,
head and other
cute.
objects,
I like
and they
Cool.
like
that.
you prop them up. Like there'll be like a little
Yeah.
post that goes up and then curves, and you like attach a gem to this piece, and you attach something else here, and you attach a skeleton thing here.
Wow.
And so then it's got this frosted look around it, and all the things kind of pseudo look like they're floating
That
inside
is
of the cube.
awesome.
It's neat. And the cube is like a good like 1.5 by 1.5. It's not like a teeny tiny.
You guys got to do like a one shot with that thing at your house or something.
There are so many minifigs in this thing. Like I don't see how it isn't a case for like using Legos as your terrain and using Lego
100%.
figurine. I mean, it already came with like a mage and a rogue and a druid and a paladin, and I'm only like through book 1, and there's already been like 4 or 5 minifigs with alternating heads, good and evil heads, male and female heads, different weapons for the. You want this guy to have a broadsword or a sword and a shield. The rogue comes with a crossbow or 2 daggers, and it's like, oh man, this is so
Hell
much.
yeah.
And then the other one is Monster Hunter Wilds beta. As of the airing of this, it'll be gone by already, but everybody, I'm looking forward to this game so much.
Nice.
Holy crap.
Hell yeah. Maybe this one will be the one that sticks to you. Raph, that's what everybody always says about Monster Hunter. Raph, what else have you got for us this week?
So good.
I got a
Rise was so
couple
good.
of what else you got. So I went to my friendly local game shop, and I remembered that I had a bunch of points over there. So I put a bunch of points towards a couple of games. My second one, by the way, I think you're going to be very excited about, Mac. So the first one that I got is this one right here, Street Fighter 2
Nice.
Turbo. I never owned this game. I wanted to get a fighting game. I want to kind of learn how to play a few fighting games. So, I'm
Didn't
excited
you
to pick
just
this one.
buy Street Fighter 2?
I was just about to
I have
say.
Street
2
Fighter
weeks
2,
ago?
but this one has a bigger roster. It
It's
feels
better, yeah, that's-
faster.
yeah.
Did
So
you
I
know
kinda
that
was
we
like-
learned that back in like 1991?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
know that, but you know what? I actually wanted Street Fighter 2. I was just like, let me just have a copy of that
busting
just
your
to have one in
balls.
there. But that's not the cool one that I got. The cool one
Yes,
that I
it is.
got was fucking Donkey Kong Country because I didn't
Oh,
have a
shit.
copy of this game, and
Okay.
I fucking love this game.
I'll
and I
run
know
through
you
that
do
bitch
too,
right
Matt, so
now.
This shit. We should
Commit,
stream this
commit.
one. I feel like it'd be fun to do. It's like do a dual stream here on this. But yeah, those are my what else you got. It's Donkey Kong Country and Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
Raph, bring in the retro. I love it.
Hell yeah, dude.
One of the best games of all time. All right, nice. We'll have to run through that bad boy later, but for now, that does it for our show. Thank you so much for listening or watching. Do us a huge favor, like and subscribe. If you are just listening to this, why don't you head on over to our Instagram at the Game Treasure Podcast to see our beautiful faces in small doses. Make sure to check out our live streams Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays. Finally, reach out to us via email with any questions or comments you'd want answered on the show at gametreasurepodcast@gmail.com. You can find links to all of our stuff at our linktree /the GTP. We want to thank Crunkwitch for the use of our theme song, Clash of the Droids. You can find their music on Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere you can find music on the internet. And of course, we would like to thank RetroGameTreasure.com. Owned and operated by the Megabuck himself, Retro Game Treasure is a subscription service that sends collectors customized boxes of retro video games every month. You probably heard us talking about it earlier in this episode when it comes to amassing games in the spirit of UFO 50. Simply make your profile at www.retrogametreasure.com and you will receive games tailored to fill out your collection. That's right. You can live out your very own UFO 50 scenario where you buy a PlayStation and you tell Buck that you want PlayStation games that are shooters and puzzle games and racing games. And then every month, if you've never played the PlayStation before, but now you have one, you'll get boxes of games sent to you that are those categories that I just mentioned that I already have forgotten every month, just to your door. And you can pop them in your PlayStation and then you play them and they're all pretty good. And then you're just like, oh, I love video games. You get video games to your door every month.
It's okay. We save all your preferences. You don't have to remember all those things you just said.
See. RetroGameTreasure.com. Obsessed with video games since 1985. My name is Max Stein, and I love the Game Treasure podcast. It's so bad.
It's so bad.